Winter Roses, Autumn by Fairytalelovr, Chapter 2. There was a sudden silence in the room as everyone absorbed Melisandre's words. "Do it," Dany said. "Bring him back."
"No,"
Ned cut in with a thick voice. "What?" Dany exclaimed.
"But father!" Robb said. "No, this is magic. Blood magic. There is no telling the consequences."
"He is your son!" Dany cried. "How can you not want him back?"
"He is my son," Ned snapped back. "I have loved and protected him from the moment Isla put him in my arms, and I promised his mother he would be safe and loved. I failed that promise. I broke my oath, and nothing will ever hurt me more than this. He has my blood, like good, and my heart is broken, irredeemably broken, because he is gone. But we are not gods, Dany. We don't have the power of a life. Who is to say he will be back completely? That this won't. What if he comes back wrong, Dany?"
"He will come back," she exclaimed.
"But how? Will he be fully back? Will his body live but his heart be ruined forever? You can't predict it."
"It's worth the risk," Dany insisted.
"Daenerys, I know how hard it is. Trust me, I wish I could have kept him in his chambers or anything, but we can't."
"You needn't concern yourself, Lord Stark," Melisandre interrupted. "I am no feeble Essosi Magi. The spell is absolute. He will be fully restored, or he won't be back at all. The Lord of Light does not give half blessings."
"Dany, if it doesn't work, if he doesn't come back fully, are you prepared for the consequences? For having him alive, but not be there with you?"
"What I know," Dany said, stepping forward and taking one of Ned's hands in hers, "is that my father died before I was born, and from all I have heard, I am better off for it. Awful as it is to say, but I had an amazing man to call father, so I was lucky. And it is because I know what having an amazing father is like that I can't deny the same to my children. I can't go back and look my babies and tell them their papa is not coming back. I have to try. I can't lose him. I can't take him away from little Adam and Lyanna." Ned shuddered when he heard his granddaughter's name. His sister's name. He had made her promise, and he had failed.
"You are certain he will be perfect?"
he asked. "The Lord of Light is merciful, Lord Stark," Melisandre replied. "He does not believe in broken promises. If the Lord judges Lord Starling worthy, he will be restored completely. He won't be back only halfway." Ned closed his eyes for a moment.
"You said you need king's blood. Will it harm Lady Starling?"
"No, I only need a few drops of her blood when I say the spell." He nodded and exhaled.
"Then do it."
Littlefinger was cracking his knuckles, deep in thought. Things in Casterly Rock had to be really direr than anyone would have imagined possible for the ruthless Lord Tywin Lannister to have been moving so slowly and cautiously. Especially when his daughter, the Queen, had been shamefully exiled from the capital. For much less it had rained on Castamere. He had thought, after Ned Stark's ironic rejection of Tywin's proposed law, that the damage would finally be done, and he would have seen lions and wolves at war, and the realm drowned in chaos. But again his hopes had been dashed. The war was veiled at best, even if assassins had been sent to Winterfell and the Blessed Island, and the dwarf had changed sides. It did not help that Littlefinger's spies in the north were so unhelpful. Varys used his little birds, but the Master of Coin preferred to use his whores. However, they were absolutely useless when it came to the Starks and their honourable foolhardiness. Robb Stark had stopped frequenting brothels after his betrothal had been set, so that source was lost. He had snippets provided by Theon Greyjoy, but the stupid Ironborn was a hostage, and seemed to enjoy talking about himself more than giving details about the castle and its comings and goings. Jon Starling was every bit as much as faithful as his father, or even more so, considering the bastard had no bastard of his own. Baelish's planted whores in the small brothels in the Midnight Village and Sunstone Town were able to discover next to nothing from the guards and soldiers, as they really gave out no useful information. With no northern source or opening, Littlefinger had been left with the option of helping the Lannisters. Cautiously, of course, since he needed to cover to turn his coat if he must. For a few moons now, he had been helping Tywin Lannister in his plan to slowly intoxicate Robert with his own beloved wine. And though he knew the Warden of the West was plotting something else, he was still in the dark about it. Perhaps not for long. "Lord Cavan!" Littlefinger exclaimed as the man led into his solar. "What an honour to have you in my establishment." "I do not have time for chit-chat, Lord Baelish," the blonde said, taking a seat. "You sent word to my brother about Ned Stark's departure." "Yes, my lord. I understand communications are a bit harder now that Stark's planted his own maester to oversee the Ravens. But I thought the opportunity was interesting. There is no telling when the king will be so vulnerable again. Perhaps this would be the perfect time to ensure the Hand's position becomes once again vacant." "It is true that it is a good opportunity, Lord Baelish," Kevin said, "but Ned Stark's departure was too sudden. They designed too many alliances, and there is the inconvenience of the Master of Ships being a Northerner. We must wait, I'm afraid. We have seen proof that Stark is not too worried about leaving his post to visit his family and homeland. Another opportunity should arrive soon enough." "I see." Littlefinger pursed his lips, displeased. "If I might, my lord, offer a piece of information, I have discovered a little on the terms of the betrothal between Robb Stark and Marjorie Tyrell. They are to be wed shortly after her 16th name day, which is to happen in the second moon of the coming year. Right now, all they have is a promise, an easily broken betrothal. After they wed, there is a blood duty. A solid alliance is not easily broken." Yes, I do understand how marriage alliances work, Baelish," Kevin said irritably. That was a complication he hadn't thought of before. He imagined the girl was younger still. "Very well. I am boarding a ship to Lannisport early in the morning. I shall send a message to my brother before I go, though do not expect any answer in less than a moon. If Eddard Stark is really at the wall, I believe we shall have a little bit of time. I doubt he won't stop by Winterfell." With that, Kevin stood up and left. Peter drummed his fingers on the table. He needed a spy in the north. He needed to make sure Ned Stark would visit Winterfell and stay there. Because if the Lannisters took over the Handship, then they'd be able to retaliate against the Warden of the North. That way, lions and wolves would fight each other, and in their mutual destruction, Littlefinger could plot his own rising. Melisandre said her spell would be better performed at night, for light thrives better when it triumphs over darkness, or whatever other mystical nonsense she was claiming now. Dany refused to give up her position on the chair, clutching Jon's hand desperately as it grew ever colder. Robb took his place across from her, staring at his brother's face as if Jon would wake up through his sheer will. Midway through the morning, Dany finally gave in to her exhaustion, falling asleep with her head on Jon's arm. Her dreams were confusing, flashes of colourful chaos, until it settled. Another vision, she thought, when she recognised the Bailey at Winterfell. It was silent and empty, except for one horse. "Winter?" she called, frowning. The mare looked up from the hay she was eating at her name and gladly accepted Dany's rubbing of her nose. Then the woman noticed she was fully saddled. "She is very cute when she wants to be, isn't she?" asked another female voice. Dany turned and recognised her company. The grey eyes and long face of the Starks. Dark brown hair braided intricately to be kept away from her face. She looked the same as from her other dream, years ago before her wedding. "Lyanna," Dany whispered, and the woman smiled. She was not wearing the same blue dress or her garland of winter roses. The garland Dany came to discover had ultimately led to war, though she was every bit as elegant, and Dany could see some flowers and blue silk woven into her braids. She was wearing breeches, a tunic, a gambeson, and even mail. She looked like a knight. "Why am I dreaming with you again?" Dany asked. Lyanna smiled coyly, as if privy to a delicious secret. "I believe you are somewhat knowledgeable about green dreams and dragon dreams, Dany. This is something like that." "Something like a dragon dream?" "The Red Woman is right, Dany. There is a power in King's blood. You have royal blood. Royal Valyrian blood. There is magic in your blood, Dany. The magic of dragons. And you are in one of the most magical places in the world, which is by itself a powerful conductor. And that is how we are talking." "Are you here to tell me something, then?" "Oh, dearest, I wish I could. There are a few things I wish to tell you, but I can't. We don't even have enough time," Lyanna said, going to Winter. "Would you mind taking a message back to the world of the living for me?" "Of course not." "Tell my big brother that he's a stubborn idiot, and beloved Benjamin was right. I would slap him very painfully, but I also forgive him. He hasn't broken his promise." "What promise?" Dany asked, and Lyanna only smiled. "Tell him that, and Ned will understand. Be sure to tell him I understand he is worried about his son, but that Jon will be fine. And tell Arthur to stop being so hard on himself. He failed no one. But I'm afraid I must go now." "Where? Where do I look I'm going?" "Where do I look like I'm going?" she asked, going up on the saddle as effortlessly as breathing. "You look like you're ready for battle, actually," Dany said. "I am, dear, I am," Lyanna said with another smirk. "I'm ready to battle for Jon." "What do you mean?" "You are as much a Stark as you are a Targaryen, Dany. Always remember that," Lyanna said, "and even more than any other bride, because you were raised at Winterfell as part of the Pack. And in Pack, we protect each other. I'll keep him safe until your priestess can bring him back." "He can really come back?" Dany asked, but Lyanna had already kicked Winter into moving and left the bailey. She watched the pair go, jumping over the half wall to the main courtyard like it was merely an inch tall, vanishing through the gate in a gust of wind and a pattering of hooves. Helen was right, Dany thought. Jon and Arya are really very much like their aunt, on the back of a horse. No one could help to keep up with them. Mormont groaned in pain as Maester Aemon probed the back of his head. He was still a bit groggy, and his head was pulsing with pain. "I will have someone bring you a pack of ice to put on that bump, Lord Commander," the Maester said. "It should help to bring the swelling down. Are you in too much pain?" "Well, it is uncomfortable," the man complained. "I'm certain," Maester Aemon said, "but I cannot give you milk of the puppy. Head wounds are always too worrying. You remember what happened?" "Aye," Mormont confirmed. "It felt like I was moving too slowly. Everything happened so fast. If Starling hadn't come in... I guess it's twice now I owe him my life. Thorne decided it was more important to stop the Lord than kill me, so I guess he only knocked me out." "Well, if Thorne wanted to kill you, Lord Commander, then I wouldn't have put it past him to douse your ale. I checked it later, though it might be best to just get rid of it." "What happened while I was out?" Maester Aemon took a deep breath.
Sir Adam took over the keep's security and has commanded Starling and Stark men to keep guard, and the Tyrells are also helping. The brothers are confined to their rooms, and the ones found in your cellar have been taken to the ice cells. Sir Adam took command? Mormont asked, frowning. Wait, what happened in that room? Sir Aliser, Aemon faltered. Thorn killed Lord Starling. Oh, the bastard! Mormont exclaimed, deeply sad. As much as I want to wring the bitch's neck myself, I'll throw him to the wolves. Let Lord Stark get justice. He exhaled. Lord Starling didn't deserve this. And now, fuck, this very well may turn the North against us. I am quite certain Lord Stark wouldn't rise against the Watch because of one treacherous brother. And there is a Red Priestess here who says she can undo it. Undo? You mean she can bring him back? That is what she claims, Maester Aemon said. You should rest, Lord Commander. No getting out of bed for the next few days. We need you fully recovered when Mance Rayder returns. The gods know what kind of distrust this will arise in the Free Folk against us. The Maester left and Mormont sighed. He was right, of course. The wildlings would be certainly even more wary of this deal, now that such treason had happened. He would need to purge the discontent brothers harshly, or even be at risk of even bloodier mess. Adam didn't move when he heard the man groan in pain as he woke up. His blood was boiling in anger, sadness, failure, but most of all, grief. The weak morning sun rays came through the window, reflected off his armour, after the traitor had scrambled to a sitting position, making him easily visible. Ah! The traitor said. Were you sent a cry for your bastard lordling? I said my accommodations are different than usual. I wanted to see you alone. Away from the others. None to overhear. Ah, I see. So this will be painful. I won't lay one hand on you, Adam said with a hard voice. Sir Aliser snorted. Too craven for it. Oh no. I do have the guts to break your face in half. But I won't. Because if I do, I'll likely lose my temper. And, unlike you, I don't fight unarmed men. You don't know what happened in that room. No. But I know Jon. I train with him every day. There is no way he would have fallen, fighting, without giving you at least a few bruises. There were 4 of you in that room. Not a hard equation to unscramble. There is no pain you can inflict on me that will be greater than the pride of serving my queen. I did it for the honour of House Targaryen. It was Adam's turn to snort. Oh, you simple-minded, stupid fool. You are wrong, and in so many ways. As I said, I won't lay a hand on you. But by the end of our conversation, I suspect I will have inflicted on you more pain than you have ever felt in your entire lifetime. He stepped closer to the still smiling man. You were a strong presence in court, Dragonstone. Were you not, Sir Aliser? What sort of question is that? So when I do this, Adam continued, reaching through the layers of armour and clothes to get to his wrist, and untying the bracelet, you'll probably notice a little something. Thorn frowned for a moment, staring from the bracelet up to his face. But then his expression slackened. You can't be! Oh, but I am. You have been protecting her. Her as well, of course. Though you might have noticed who I was shadowing,
Adam said, and Thorne frowned again.
You see, when Ned Stark first proposed this plan, I thought it was ludicrous. That no one, or at least none of the key players, would be dumb enough to fall for it. I'm rarely wrong, though I supposed it was for the best that I was in this case. You see, I didn't think anyone would believe that Ned Stark went south to find his sister, and came back with her bones and a baby boy he claimed his son. I thought someone was bound to suspect something. That no one would believe the Honourable Lord Stark, who was so glaringly different from his usurper friend, who denied whores at camp, would come back with a bastard boy in hand. He was right, in the end. No one did suspect it. No one looked twice at the boy. No one thought it strange. What are you talking about? You speak so highly of your devotion to House Targaryen. Do you really think Prince Rhaegar would be capable of what the usurper accused him of? Of kidnapping and raping the daughter of a great house? No, I never believed. Not sure anyone did, even the usurper's supporters. Because the prince didn't take her. She came willingly.
Of course she did.
And they were married,
Adam revealed, and Sir Aliser went pale.
Oh, I see you're putting things together. Rhaegar and Lyanna were married. Then Ned Stark goes to find his sister, and comes back to court with her bones, and a newborn baby he claims as son. Nearly 20 years later, you find that boy, now a man, protected by a king's guard. Please tell me you follow the logic. But the... You speak of honour to House Targaryen, Sir Aliser,
Adam said, standing up.
And yet you made House Targaryen vulnerable again. You killed your king. You betrayed House Targaryen. We had everything in place for a restoration. But now the king is dead, the queen is vulnerable, and the heir is a toddler. 20 years of work, wasted down the drain. Rhaegar's last son lost, and without the cover of a northern bastard protecting them, if the usurper doesn't call for their heads, the Lannisters will send their men. I hope you die easily with that on your head.
And then Adam refastened the bracelet around his wrist and left the room. Before the door closed, he heard the fallen knight sobbing in pure agony. He wanted to relish in the man's pain. But even with Melisandre's promise, his heart was so broken, he didn't have the strength. Varys smirked as he heard Sir Barristan's words. And you're asking for my interference? The knight rolled his eyes.
As much as I detest it, yes. If Robert dies right now, the Lannisters will take control of the continent before we can move to bring the rightful king here. We need to wait at least until Lord Stark is back. Then he can hold the city.
You're right, of course. There are still too many Lannister men around the Red Keep, not to mention Renly Baratheon. If Robert dies right now, we will have to crown Joffrey, what will present an infinite number of problems until Lord Stark is back. Not to mention, it might provide the Lannisters enough time to take over the capital. On the other hand, if Robert dies and we claim Joffrey's illegitimacy, Renly will wrestle the crown onto his own head, and then the Lannisters will respond in kind, and we will have another bloody war. Even if he doesn't, Stannis will come and take over, and it will be another bloody war to get them out.
So, yes, we need Robert to breathe his stupidity and foolishness for a little while longer. Will you take care of the wine, then? Barristan asked, still uncomfortable. Yes, of course, Varys said. Leave it to me, sir. I shall make sure the king lives for now. Barristan shivered and left the room with goose pimples rising on his arms. There was always something shifty and dangerous about Varys. He truly hoped he had not just done contrary to what he had intended. Marjorie walked softly into the room, settling the extra blankets in an empty chair out of the way. Lord Stark was still standing stiffly, leaning on the wall and staring at the table where his son lay lifeless. The two chairs next to each side of the table were taken by Robb and Daenerys. So she took one of the blankets and stepped closer to the man she would one day call father. My lord, you should get some rest. Not until he wakes, Ned replied, just as stiffly as his stance. Melisandre won't perform the spell until evenfall. Get some rest until then, at least. Marjorie insisted. The direwolf nudged him with his snout, to no result. So, sighing, Marjorie unfolded the blanket. I'm fine, Ned said. I'm not cold. I'm sure, she said placatingly, pulling his hand to make him step away from the wall. Though Ned wasn't too keen, the wolf pushed him again, and he relented, allowing the young woman to wrap the blanket around his shoulders. Benjen accepted his blanket quietly, only nodding his head in lieu of thanking. Marjorie hadn't seen him utter even a single word since Melisandre announced her spell. She smiled softly as she passed Maester Aemon, who was sitting on a chair by the fire again. His head had fallen forward as he dozed lightly. Marjorie knew better than attempting to reason with Daenerys, so she didn't even try, merely wrapping another blanket around her. The lady raised her head from its resting place against her husband's hand, acknowledging the gesture with an owlish blink. Then the southerner took the last blanket and crossed to Robb, who sat unmoving, watching his brother's face. I'm too numb to feel cold, he whispered, though he didn't complain. It's all right. I am cold, though, she said, sitting on his lap and wrapping the blanket around them both. You should rest, Robb whispered into her ear. This isn't proper. He's my brother too, she said just as quietly, fitting her head in the curve of his neck. Fuck propriety. Several moments later, Adam returned to the room. I have just interrogated Sir Aliser, he announced. He is ready for his sentence. We should wait for Jon, Daenerys said, so he can look into his eyes. Sir Aliser doesn't deserve this absolution, my lady. He doesn't deserve to die knowing it was undone. You told him? Benjen asked in a raw voice. He knows what he's done, was all Adam answered. Good, Ned said strongly. Have the courtyard ready. I will. But Adam shook his head. Dany, he called softly, and she looked up at him again, her eyes bloodshot and red-rimmed. I don't wish to put any pressure on you, but he said he did what he did for the honour of House Targaryen, to restore your honour, so Jon's birth status wouldn't shame you anymore. If you would like... If you don't mind, father, she cut in, steel in her voice. This traitor's crime was against House Starling, and I would answer it. Ned nodded, hating the look on her face, but knowing she couldn't be denied. What will you do? Robb asked. He did it for House Targaryen, did he not? Dany snapped. Then I shall answer with fire and blood. Adam, have the courtyard ready. Sir Aliser was beyond caring about anything now. He had known that he was going to pay for his deed from the moment the direwolf had burst into the room and stopped them. With Mormont still alive,
Without the Night's Watch under his own command, he was doomed. His plan had failed. He wanted to kill Mormont to take control of the Night's Watch and prevent the abomination of allowing the wildlings south. What he knew would gather enough support from the Northern Lords that would keep him safe from an attack from the south, especially if Half Mormont took offence. Then John Starling had come into the room and his blood had boiled, and he had not thought too much about the repercussions. Only that he must defend the honour of Daenerys Targaryen. After Sir Arthur had come, he had betrayed his king, however unknowingly. Therefore, he deserved the punishment of traitors. 2 Starling guards dragged him from the room he had been kept in to the courtyard, Adam following them closely behind. The Black brothers on the way cursed him, calling him a traitor and worse. He couldn't care. He saw the 5 wildlings that had returned with Mormont's group, but he was so miserable he couldn't even muster his disgust for them. Then, on his way to the raised platform, he saw her. His queen, beautiful, lovely, and stoic. She looked so much like her lovely mother. Maester Aemon stood next to her, equally as stone-faced, and Aliser felt his stomach sink. He would face judgment from the surviving Targaryens. Sir Aliser Thorne, brother of the Night's Watch. Daenerys started once he had been forced to his knees in front of her, and Adam took his place next to her. You stand here accused of attempting to murder Lord Commander Mormont in order to take over control of the Night's Watch. What do you plead? There was a rumble of whispers from the Black brothers as Sir Aliser pled guilty. You stand here, Daenerys continued, accused of murdering my lord husband, Sir John of House Starling, Lord of the Midnight Fortress and the Blessed Island, when he walked in and prevented the murder of Lord Commander Mormont. How do you plead?
Guilty, my Lady Starling, Sir Aliser replied quietly, his head down. You are declaring your plea to an audience, sir, Adam said, restraining from kicking him. They must hear you. Guilty! The fallen man yelled.
When you were questioned earlier this morning, you told Sir Adam that you committed this odious crime for the honour of House Targaryen. Do you stand by this statement? Daenerys asked.
Yes, he answered, and saw pure, raw anger and disgust on her face. He had never wished to cause her pain, his beloved and chosen queen. But it seemed that with his folly, his ignorance of the truth, he had destroyed more than her chances to reach for the crown. He had destroyed her heart. You dare murder my lord husband and claim it was to honour me, Daenerys spoke through her teeth, quietly enough that only those on their level heard. You take my children's father from them, and you offend me by saying it was in my name. You are a disgrace to your name, sir, and you disgrace House Targaryen with your false loyalty. Sir Aliser lowered his head even more, shame and failure drowning him. All he wanted was to serve his chosen ruler. And yet, he had done the exact opposite. There were whispers across the courtyard now. As the senior-most person of Targaryen blood, Maester Aemon said as the whispers rose, I shun you. The crime you committed was hideous and abominable, and we do not stand for it. You stained the honour of House Targaryen with your crime, sir, and for that, House Targaryen calls for your punishment.
Would any of the present speak for this man? Daenerys asked. No one answered, and once again, silence took over. Then, for the crime of murder, I, Daenerys Stormborn, in the name of House Starling, House Stark, and House Targaryen, sentence you, Sir Aliser Thorne of the Night's Watch, to death," she declared, loud and clear, no trembling in her voice. The guards brought a block, and Adam stepped up to her.
"You don't have to watch this. Go back to Jon."
"Not yet," she replied. "I'm as much a Stark as a Targaryen," she thought. "In the north, our way is the old way. I have sentenced him. If I cannot stand to see him dead by my order, then he does not deserve to die." Ned curved the side of his mouth in the semblance of a shadow of a smile. Then he took ice from the scabbard Benjen offered and went to the block, severing the man's head in one clean swing of the sword. Daenerys swallowed back bile as she watched the head falling down, blood squirting everywhere. The sight really was gruesome.
"Are you all right?"
Ned asked. "He confessed his crime, accepted his guilt, and he was punished according to the laws of the land." She took a deep breath and exhaled shakily. "Let him ask forgiveness to his gods, for I have none to offer." Then she grabbed her skirt and left quickly. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one.
Oh my god, I've wanted Sir Aliser to know that for so long. You honour the house, you murder the king. Rest in pieces.
Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.